Kael had never imagined that he, the youngest warrior in the Galactic Peace Guard, would one day travel to the homeworld of the Aravani Empire. At just 17, he carried the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. Yet he never let fear control him. His father had always said, "Strength is not measured in years, Kael, but in courage and heart." Those words had guided him through every challenge. And today, as the sleek human cruiser pierced the clouds of an unfamiliar planet, Kael felt both fear and excitement swirl inside him. The Aravani homeworld was unlike any place Kael had ever seen. Towering crystalline cities gleamed under the twin suns, their surfaces reflecting a spectrum of colors that made the sky seem alive. Ships, large and small, moved gracefully in organized formations, showing a discipline that only an advanced civilization could achieve. The humans had been sent here not for exploration or conquest, but to ensure the safety of a historic event: the ceremonial selection of a mate for Princess Lysera, the heir of the Aravani Empire. Kael had heard rumors of the Aravani. They were strict, proud, and their traditions stretched back thousands of years. Humans were rarely considered equals among the stars, often seen as primitive and unpredictable. Yet, the Aravani had called for human protection during the ceremony, a request that many of Kael's fellow warriors found surprising. As he stepped onto the planet's surface, Kael's boots clicked against the crystalline floors of the palace complex. The air was sharp but breathable, carrying a faint metallic scent. Courtiers and guards, all Aravani, moved around with a precision Kael had never witnessed. Their forms were elegant, their faces serene, yet their eyes were alert, calculating every motion of those who entered their world. "Stay close," a senior officer whispered to Kael. "We are guests, Kael, but the Aravani value caution above all. Remember, one misstep, and even we could be seen as intruders." Kael nodded, swallowing a lump of nerves. He had trained for years, learning strategy, hand-to-hand combat, and interstellar tactics, but nothing could fully prepare him for the weight of being in a world where humans were seen as almost invisible. The palace halls opened into a vast chamber, and there she was, Princess Lysera. Kael froze for a heartbeat, not out of fear, but in awe. She stood tall, her posture perfect, her eyes deep and calculating, yet strangely warm. Her presence was magnetic, not because of her appearance alone, but because of the aura she carried. Intelligence, authority, and confidence intertwined seamlessly. Kael felt a strange pull in his chest, a mixture of admiration and curiosity. He had faced alien warlords, cosmic beasts, and deadly storms in training simulations, but none of those experiences compared to the weight of standing in front of the princess, whose future would determine the destiny of an entire empire. The ceremony had not yet begun. Aravani tradition demanded that the palace be inspected, security confirmed, and rituals prepared before the princess could appear publicly. Kael and his fellow human warriors were assigned positions near the perimeter, watching for any potential threats. Though humans were not expected to participate in the ritual, Kael's eyes kept returning to Lysera. She moved with grace, her fingers brushing over the ceremonial crystals, her gaze occasionally shifting to the sky. "You watch too closely," whispered Terran, Kael's best friend and fellow young warrior. Terran was tall, confident, and had already earned several commendations. "Remember, we are here as guards, not spectators. Don't let her presence distract you from your duties." Kael nodded but could not tear his eyes away. There was something different about her, something that made him feel both challenged and inspired. The palace bells chimed, signaling the arrival of the Aravani Council. Elders with long, flowing robes, marked with symbols that represented centuries of wisdom, entered the chamber. Their eyes swept over everyone present, including Kael and his human team, with a mixture of curiosity and calculation. The head elder, a towering figure named Varian, spoke in a clear, commanding voice. Today, Varian began. "We honor a tradition as old as our people. The selection of the mate for Princess Lysera is not merely a ritual. It is a test of courage, intelligence, and character. Only those worthy of her trust and partnership may stand at her side." A murmur spread among the audience. Kale's heart thumped loudly in his chest. Humans were not part of this tradition. This was an alien world, and yet, somehow, Kale felt as if fate was nudging him closer. Suddenly, a commotion arose near the ceremonial gates. An Arivani warrior, attempting to demonstrate skill in the preliminary trials, misjudged a leap over a crystalline barrier and fell, injuring himself. Without thinking, Kale darted forward. He reached the fallen warrior just in time, supporting his weight and pulling him out of harm's way. Gasps echoed in the chamber. The council's eyes widened. One elder whispered sharply, while another looked impressed. Princess Lysera herself turned, her gaze landing directly on Kale. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. "You have courage," she said, her voice calm yet commanding. "Human courage is rare, indeed. Step forward." Kyle hesitated, but the pull he felt earlier urged him to obey. He stepped forward, his every movement careful, yet firm. "Are you here to participate?" Varian asked, his tone sharp. Kyle shook his head. "I am here to serve and protect, Elder Varian." Lysera's eyes, however, did not leave him. "Sometimes," she said, her voice carrying an unspoken challenge. "Those who are meant to serve are also those who can rise above tradition." Kyle did not understand fully, but he felt a spark ignite within him. He had always believed that humans were underestimated across the galaxy. And now, facing this alien empire, he saw the opportunity to prove the worth of his species, not through words, but through actions. The council deliberated in hushed tones, the tension in the chamber palpable. "You will participate in the trials," she declared. "If you succeed, you may walk alongside me. If you fail, you will still stand guard, but your courage will be remembered." The announcement caused a mixture of shock and whispers. Humans had never been part of these trials. For a young warrior to be included was unprecedented. Kale's mind raced, but he felt an unexpected calm. This was his chance, not just for himself, but for humanity. The first trial was explained, a test of intelligence and resourcefulness. Participants would navigate a maze filled with ancient Arivani technology and traps, designed to challenge even the most skilled warriors. Kale studied the layout projected before them, noting the traps, dead ends, and hidden passageways. Every instinct he had learned over years of training told him to remain calm, think ahead, and trust his intuition. When the trial began, Kale moved swiftly, his eyes scanning for patterns. He used his human ingenuity to bypass traps that had confounded several Arivani warriors. A collapsing bridge? Kale calculated the timing and sprinted across with perfect precision. A room filled with shifting lights, meant to disorient participants? He closed his eyes for a heartbeat, feeling the vibrations of the floor beneath his feet, and stepped safely forward. At the end of the trial, Kale emerged first, surprising even the most skeptical council members. The chamber erupted in murmurs. Princess Lysera smiled, a rare expression that carried approval and curiosity. "You are different," she said softly, almost to herself. "Not just brave, but clever. And your heart, it is true." Kyle, panting but exhilarated, bowed slightly. "I am honored, Princess." That night, as the stars glimmered above the Arivani palace, Kale lay on his cot, reflecting on the day. He had entered the trials as a young, underestimated human, and now he had gained the attention of a princess and a civilization. He understood that the challenges ahead would only grow more difficult. But Kale also understood something else. Humanity had a place among the stars. not because of weapons or numbers, but because of courage, ingenuity, and heart. And he was determined to show that to the galaxy. As sleep claimed him, Kael could almost feel the pull of destiny guiding him toward Princess Lysera, and toward trials that would test not only his strength, but his spirit. The journey had just begun, and the galaxy would soon witness the rise of the youngest human warrior, standing alongside the most powerful princess in the Aravani Empire. The sun had just risen over the crystalline towers of the Aravani Palace when Kael was called to the central chamber. The council elders awaited, along with Princess Lysera. The atmosphere was tense but electric, as if the air itself anticipated something extraordinary. Kael's heart thumped, not from fear, but from the strange mixture of pride and curiosity. "You have proven cleverness and bravery in the preliminary challenge," Lysera said, her voice calm but commanding. "Now you face the trials designed to determine the true partner of the Aravani heir. The path will be dangerous, filled with tests that challenge body, mind, and heart." Kael straightened, adjusting his armor. Though the trials were unfamiliar, the feeling of determination inside him had only grown since yesterday. He knew that his species had always been underestimated. Yet every instinct in him screamed that humans could rise to challenges no alien could imagine. "The first trial will test your skill and courage," Elder Varian announced. "You must navigate the labyrinth of shadows, a complex maze filled with ancient Arivani technology. Many of our finest warriors have failed. Only those with precision, intelligence, and unwavering focus may succeed." Kael listened carefully, memorizing every detail. He knew this was not just a test of physical ability, but of adaptability, a trait humans had mastered over generations. While the Arivani relied on tradition and protocol, Kael relied on quick thinking and intuition. When the trial began, participants entered one by one. The maze was massive, stretching across multiple crystalline floors. Walls shimmered, and moving panels hid traps that could snap shut in an instant. Kael took a deep breath and stepped forward. At first, the maze seemed impossible. Shifting walls, hidden sensors, and mysterious energy fields tested his every step. Yet Kael's mind worked like a finely tuned machine. He analyzed patterns, observed subtle cues in the environment, and used his human instincts to anticipate changes. A floor panel sank beneath another participant's weight, sending them tumbling into a harmless but humiliating trap. Kael leapt sideways just in time, feeling a surge of adrenaline. His heart raced, yet his mind remained calm. Each challenge strengthened his resolve. Hours passed, and Kael continued to move through the maze, solving puzzles that required both intelligence and creativity. At one point, he encountered a section that seemed impossible. A room filled with shifting lights, designed to confuse and disorient. Most competitors froze or wandered aimlessly, but Kael closed his eyes for a heartbeat. He felt the vibrations of the floor, listened for subtle sounds, and relied on his instincts. When he opened his eyes again, he was at the correct exit. Meanwhile, Lysera observed from a viewing chamber high above. She had watched many trials over the centuries, but there was something unique about Kael. While other participants relied solely on training and strength, he combined courage with thoughtfulness. He did not rush blindly. He did not try to overpower the maze. Instead, he understood it and himself. When Kael finally emerged from the labyrinth, he was the first to complete it. Sweat ran down his face, but a triumphant smile spread across his lips. The council murmured among themselves, astonished. Elder Varian nodded slowly. "Remarkable. Never has a human or any warrior shown such combination of intellect, skill, and composure." Lysera descended to meet him as he caught his breath. "You move differently than I expected," she said. "Other participants fight the world, but you seem to understand it. That is rare. That is human. Perhaps, but also extraordinary." Kael felt warmth spread across his chest. He had expected admiration, perhaps, but not this genuine curiosity. "I only do what I can," he replied humbly. "I learn, I think, and I act. That is all any of us can do." The princess nodded. "Then perhaps you understand the greatest secret of this trial. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the ability to act despite it. And wisdom comes from knowing when to fight and when to think." Their conversation was cut short by the announcement of the second trial. This one would test their agility and teamwork. Kael noticed that the other participants were now eyeing him differently. The whispers and stares that had greeted him earlier were now tinged with respect and, in some cases, envy. The second trial began in the palace gardens, where participants had to climb, leap, and maneuver across floating platforms over a deep chasm. The final section required pairs to cooperate to cross a series of moving platforms that demanded precise timing. Kael realized immediately that he could not complete this alone. He would need to work with someone else. Lysera stepped forward. "You will pair with me," she said, her tone polite but firm. "Many warriors will underestimate humans. Perhaps it is time to prove them wrong." Kael swallowed, surprised, yet honored. "I will do my best, princess." The platforms began to shift. Kael moved with precision, timing his steps carefully. Lysera matched his movements. Her strength and agility, remarkable. Together, they crossed the dangerous gaps, each step building trust between them. At one point, a platform tilted unexpectedly, threatening to send them into the chasm below. Kael caught Lysera's hand instinctively, pulling her to safety. Their eyes met for a brief moment, and an unspoken understanding passed between them. They could rely on each other. By the end of the trial, the pair had completed the course faster than any other team. The council looked astonished, and the other participants were left in awe. Kael felt a surge of pride not for personal glory, but for showing that humans could rise to challenges once thought impossible. That night, Kael and Lysera walked through the palace gardens. The twin moons reflected off the crystal towers, casting long, shimmering shadows. Kael noticed that the princess did not speak of rank or title. She spoke of strategy, of balance, and of the importance of seeing beyond fear. "You think differently than your species is given credit for," she said softly. "Humans are underestimated everywhere. Yet you find ways to survive, to succeed. It is admirable." Kael shrugged, a little embarrassed. "We survive because we must, and we rise because we can. I have learned from my elders and my people that courage is only half of what matters. Wisdom and heart guide the rest." Lysera smiled faintly. "Then perhaps you are ready for what comes next. The trials are only the beginning. The council watches, yes, but so do I. And I wish to see more of your spirit, Kael." Kael felt a strange warmth in his chest, a mix of anticipation and responsibility. He realized that the trials were no longer just tests of skill. They were opportunities to show what humans could bring to the galaxy. Strength alone was not enough. Compassion, intelligence, courage, and loyalty mattered just as much. As they parted for the night, Kael lay on his cot, reflecting on the day. He had faced challenges no human had faced before, and he had done so with honor. The princess had noticed him, not merely as a warrior, but as someone capable of thought, courage, and heart. Tomorrow would bring the third trial, one that would test his wisdom and moral judgment. Kael knew it would not be easy, but he was ready. Humans had always been underestimated across the stars, and he intended to show the Aravani and the galaxy that age and size did not determine greatness. He closed his eyes and whispered to himself. The twin moons shone above, casting silver light across the crystal towers. Somewhere in that glow, Kale felt the pull of destiny drawing him closer to Princess Lysera, and closer to the trials that would define not only his fate, but the place of humanity among the stars. The morning sun shone brightly across the crystalline towers of the Aravani Palace, casting long streaks of light into the council chambers. Today's trial would be the most challenging yet, testing not just strength or agility, but the essence of a warrior's character. Judgment, empathy, and loyalty. Kale felt a mix of excitement and nervous anticipation as he prepared himself. The first two trials had tested his skill and courage, and he had passed. But this trial would be different. The council elders gathered in a circle, their robes shimmering in the sunlight. Princess Lysera stood among them, her expression calm yet intense. "The next trial," she announced, "will test the ability to make choices under pressure, decisions that affect not only your own survival, but that of others. Only those who can balance heart and mind will succeed." Kyle nodded. He understood immediately. This was no ordinary challenge. Humans were often praised for courage and creativity, but empathy and moral strength were harder to measure. Still, he had learned from his experiences on Earth and in the Peace Guard that the right choice was not always the easiest. The trial took place in a vast simulation chamber. The walls projected a holographic environment, a planet under threat, cities crumbling under meteor storms, and populations trapped in dangerous zones. Kale and the other participants were each given a team of holographic civilians to guide to safety. A voice echoed through the chamber. "You have 30 minutes to evacuate as many civilians as possible. The path is perilous, and choices must be made quickly. Lives depend on your judgment." Kale immediately assessed the situation. The holographic cities were complex, with multiple routes and dangers. Some paths were faster, but riskier. Others were safer, but longer. He could see other participants rushing blindly, trying to save as many civilians as possible without planning. He took a deep breath and focused. "Prioritize logic and compassion," he whispered to himself. "Every choice counts." He led his team carefully, rescuing civilians from collapsing buildings, diverting others from fires, and using his knowledge of tactics to navigate collapsing bridges. At one point, he faced a difficult choice. A bridge was collapsing, and two groups needed help at the same time. He hesitated, knowing that helping one might endanger the other. His mind raced, but he remembered the lessons of humanity: courage, teamwork, and sacrifice. Kale made his decision, splitting the efforts with precision, guiding both groups to safety, relying on trust and timing. The simulation recognized his judgment, and a gentle green glow spread over his path, a sign of success. Meanwhile, Lysera observed quietly from a separate chamber. She had seen many warriors falter under stress, focusing on speed rather than care. But Kale's actions were different. He did not act for glory or speed. He acted for the lives he was protecting. She could see the strength of character in his every choice. After the trial ended, Kyle stepped out of the chamber, exhausted but satisfied. Other participants looked weary and frustrated, their simulations marked with failures and mistakes. Kale's calm demeanor and clear thinking had set him apart. "Impressive," Lysera said, stepping forward. "You act with courage and care. Most warriors focus only on themselves or the mission. You consider others. That is rare." Kale bowed slightly, humbled by her words. "I only do what I believe is right, Princess. Every life matters, even if it is not our own." She smiled faintly, a rare warmth in her expression. "Then perhaps you understand more than you realize. Leadership is not only about strength, it is about wisdom and heart. You have both, Kale." Over the next few days, Kale found himself spending more time with Princess Lysera, though not formally. They would meet during strategy sessions, practice maneuvers, or simply walk in the palace gardens. Their conversations grew deeper, touching on history, philosophy, and the responsibilities of power. Kael learned that Lysera was not only intelligent and disciplined, but curious about the universe. She asked about Earth, human culture, and the history of humanity's struggles among the stars. Kael explained the human spirit, the ability to endure, adapt, and rise above challenges. She listened intently, often nodding thoughtfully, sometimes asking questions that challenged him to think more deeply. "You speak of humans with pride," Lysera said one evening as they walked along a crystal terrace overlooking the city. "And yet, your people are often underestimated. Why?" Uh, um, Kael smiled softly. "We are not the strongest or the oldest in the galaxy, but we have something others often overlook: heart. We survive because we must. We rise because we can, and we care because it matters. Those things cannot be measured by size, age, or strength, but they are powerful beyond measure." Lysera's eyes glimmered in the moonlight. "Perhaps that is why I chose to watch you, even before the trials began. You do not act for pride or glory, Kael. You act for what is right." The young warrior felt a warmth spread through him, a sense of connection he had never felt before. He realized that their bond was growing not only as allies in the trials, but as equals, two minds and hearts recognizing strength in each other. Yet, danger still loomed. A rogue faction within the Aravani palace resented the idea of a human competing to become the princess's mate. They had long believed that only Aravani blood could share the throne. Secret whispers warned of sabotage, and Kael knew that every trial could carry hidden threats. But rather than fear, he felt determination. If humans could stand among the stars, they could face prejudice, treachery, and challenges with courage and heart. One evening, while practicing combat drills in the palace courtyard, Kael noticed movement near the perimeter. Figures in dark cloaks tried to ambush him. Reacting instantly, he engaged them with precision, disarming the attackers without causing serious harm. Lysera, alerted by the commotion, arrived swiftly, aiding Kael in subduing the intruders. "You were ready," she said, her voice calm but impressed. Many would have faltered. Kael wiped sweat from his brow. "I cannot underestimate anyone, Princess. Danger comes in many forms, not just in trials." She nodded thoughtfully. "And yet, your spirit remains unbroken. That is what I admire." The incident strengthened the trust between them. Kael realized that Lysera was not only observing his abilities, but also his character under real danger. Their connection grew stronger, a bond forged not just in trials, but in shared courage and understanding. By the end of this part of the trials, Kael had proven more than skill or intelligence. He had demonstrated loyalty, empathy, and moral strength qualities that many Aravani elders had long considered rare. And Lysera, watching quietly from the shadows, recognized that Kael was not just a warrior. He was someone who could stand as an equal, someone whose heart matched his courage. That night, Kael sat alone under the twin moons, reflecting on the past days. The labyrinth, the floating platforms, and the simulation had tested his mind, body, and heart. He had faced danger, solved complex challenges, and earned the respect of alien elders. But most importantly, he had begun to understand the strength of connection, the bond between allies, and perhaps something deeper with Princess Lysera. "Human courage," he whispered to the night sky, "can rise anywhere, even among stars I once thought too distant. And I will not fail." As the wind rustled through the crystal towers, Kael felt a sense of destiny drawing him forward. The next trials would be harder, more dangerous. But he was ready, not just as a warrior, but as a representative of humanity, a species that could rise beyond expectation, proving that heart, intelligence, and courage were the greatest strengths of all. And somewhere in the distance, Princess Lysera watched from her tower window, her gaze fixed on Kale. She knew that the young human was extraordinary not because he was strong, or fast, or clever alone, but because he carried the qualities that could change worlds. The palace was quiet in the early hours of the morning, the twin suns casting long, golden reflections across the crystalline towers. Kale stood on the training terrace, feeling the weight of anticipation pressing on him. Today's trial would be the most difficult, yet a test that combined all he had learned so far: courage, intelligence, agility, and above all, moral judgment. Princess Lysera approached, her presence calm but commanding. "Kale," she said softly, "this trial will push you further than the previous ones. It is designed not only to test your skills but also your heart. Remember what you have learned. Courage is not enough. You must think, you must care, and you must act decisively." Kale nodded. "I understand, Princess. I will do my best." The council elders appeared, their robes flowing with each measured step. Elder Varian's voice echoed across the terrace. "The final trial is the trial of the galaxy. You will face a simulated crisis that affects multiple worlds. Every decision you make will determine the survival of entire populations. Only those who can balance strategy, compassion, and courage will succeed. Failure is not dishonor, it is an opportunity to learn, but success will show your readiness to stand beside the Arivani heir." Kale's mind raced. He had faced simulations before, but never one that mirrored the real stakes of a galaxy in peril. He took a deep breath, focusing on the lessons from his people. Humanity's ingenuity, courage, and empathy could overcome challenges that seemed impossible. The simulation chamber opened, revealing a holographic galaxy. Stars twinkled across the vast expanse, planets orbited in precise trajectories, and warning signals flashed over multiple systems. Kale's first task was to assess the threats. A neighboring planet faced a natural disaster that could annihilate millions. Another world suffered a political uprising threatening interstellar peace. Every choice had consequences, and every delay could be fatal. Kale acted quickly. He prioritized the crises based on urgency and potential impact. Using his tactical training, he devised a plan that involved coordinating rescue fleets, evacuating civilians, and stabilizing unstable planetary governments. Every decision required careful thought, no action could be taken lightly. As Kale executed his plan, unexpected obstacles appeared. A rogue faction within the simulation attacked his fleet, seeking to exploit the chaos. Kale adapted instantly, using clever maneuvers and rapid thinking to neutralize threats while keeping civilians safe. His human intuition allowed him to predict enemy movements and respond in ways the Arivani participants had not anticipated. Princess Lysera observed closely from her station. She had expected him to be good, perhaps competent, but she had not anticipated the ingenuity and adaptability he displayed. He combined speed and precision with a deep awareness of morality. Every life mattered to him, and he made sure none were needlessly sacrificed. Hours passed in the simulation, but Kale remained focused. Even as fatigue threatened to slow his reactions, he maintained clarity of thought. He directed fleets, coordinated rescues, and made difficult choices, demonstrating not only courage, but the wisdom to act rightly under pressure. At one critical moment, he faced a dilemma. Two colonies faced simultaneous disasters, and his fleet could reach only one in time. He paused, considering options. Then he remembered the lessons from Lysera's guidance. Compassion was as vital as skill. Kale chose the colony most in danger, but coordinated automated drones to stabilize the other. A calculated risk that relied on ingenuity and trust in technology. The simulation acknowledged his decision. A soft glow spread across the chamber, signaling that Kale had not only acted with courage but with insight and moral clarity. The other participants struggled to keep up. many making rash choices that worsened the crises. Kale's performance was flawless, yet humble. He did not seek recognition, only the success of the mission. When the trial ended, Kale stepped out of the simulation chamber, exhausted but steady. The council elders murmured among themselves, visibly impressed. The Tylest Farm and the Conadig, the Tylest Fime, Elder Varian approached him, his expression solemn. Never have we witnessed such balance of courage, intelligence, and empathy. You have not only passed the trial but demonstrated the qualities of a true leader. Lysera stepped forward, her eyes locking with Kale's. You have exceeded every expectation, Kale. You think quickly, act bravely, and care deeply. That is rare in any species. That is rare in anyone. Kale bowed respectfully. I only do what is right, Princess. I act for the people, for justice, and for those who cannot act for themselves. Lysera smiled faintly, a warmth in her expression that Kale had rarely seen. Then perhaps you understand more than you realize. Leadership is not given. It is earned through thought, courage, and compassion. You have earned it today. Over the following days, the Arivani court discussed Kale's performance in hushed tones. Some elders, initially skeptical of a human as a potential mate for the princess, now whispered their approval. Even the most traditional of warriors could not deny the courage, intelligence, and moral strength Kale displayed. Kale and Lysera spent time together, preparing for the final evaluation. They trained, studied strategies, and shared quiet conversations about duty, honor, and the responsibilities of leadership. Their connection deepened, forged not only in trials but in trust, mutual respect, and the recognition of shared ideals. One evening, Kale and Lysera stood overlooking the galaxy from a high tower. Stars stretched endlessly, and the twin moons reflected off the crystalline towers below. You have grown in ways few could, Lysera said softly. You are not just brave, Kale. You are wise, thoughtful, and compassionate. That is why I trust you. Kale felt a warmth in his chest. I trust you too, Princess. You see not just a warrior, but the heart behind it. You see humanity's strength, even when others do not. Lysera nodded. Then perhaps it is time. The trials are complete, and the council has seen what I already know. You have shown courage, wisdom, and heart. You are ready not just as a warrior, but as someone who can stand by my side, as a partner, not a subject. Kale's breath caught. He realized that this was more than a trial or recognition. It was a bond. A recognition that humans through courage, intelligence, and empathy could rise to meet the greatest challenges and even stand alongside the most powerful in the galaxy. As the twin moons shone above, Kale and Lysera stood together, the stars reflecting in their eyes. They knew challenges awaited: political intrigue, cosmic threats, and the responsibilities of leadership. But they also knew that together, human ingenuity and Arivani wisdom could shape a new era in the galaxy. For Kale, the youngest human warrior, the trials had not only proven his own worth, but the potential of all humanity. And for Lysera, the princess of a proud alien empire, she had found a partner whose courage and heart matched her own. Together, they would face the galaxy and perhaps change it forever. The halls of the Arivani Palace were alive with energy. Today was not just another trial, it was the day of final judgment. The day when the council would recognize the one worthy to stand beside Princess Lysera. Kale, the youngest human warrior, walked through the corridors with steady steps, his armor polished and his expression calm. He carried not only his own hopes, but the aspirations of humanity itself. The council gathered in the grand chamber, their robes shimmering like starlight. Every elder watched closely, whispering among themselves about the human warrior who had conquered the trials with courage, intelligence, and heart. Lysera entered, her presence commanding silence. All eyes turned to her, for when the Aravani princess spoke, even the most powerful warriors listened. Today, Lysera began, her voice clear and unwavering. We celebrate more than victory in trials. We celebrate the recognition of strength, courage, and wisdom. In these qualities, I have found one who stands beside me, not only as a warrior, but as a partner, a guide, and a friend. All eyes shifted to Kael. The young human stepped forward, feeling the weight of history pressing on his shoulders. He had trained, fought, and thought for this moment, yet he remained humble. He knew that true strength was not in recognition, but in action. Lysera continued, her gaze unwavering. Kael, you have faced every challenge, not only with skill and courage, but with empathy, wisdom, and honor. You have proven yourself worthy of standing beside me not because of age or species, but because of your heart and your mind. The council has seen this, and so have I. You are the one I choose. Gasps rippled through the chamber. Some elders, who had doubted a human's worth, now looked astonished. Others nodded subtly, recognizing that Kael's actions had earned him respect beyond precedent. The murmurs quieted as Lysera stepped closer to Kael, her eyes reflecting the twin moons that shone through the crystal windows. Kael felt a mixture of awe and humility. Princess, he said softly, I am honored. I will stand by your side, not for glory, but to protect, guide, and serve as best I can. For humanity, for your people, and for what is right. Lysera smiled, a rare warmth lighting her features. That is all I could ever ask for. The council formally acknowledged Kael, marking a historic moment in Aravani history. A human, the youngest warrior in the Galactic Peace Guard, had not only proven his worth, but had earned the respect of a proud alien empire. For Kael, it was more than recognition. It was proof that courage, intelligence, and heart could rise above prejudice and tradition. The celebration that followed was unlike any Kael had ever experienced. The palace gardens glowed with light, music filled the air, and Aravani citizens gathered to witness the historic union of the princess and her chosen mate. Kael moved among them with humility, shaking hands and exchanging nods, feeling the acceptance of a people who had once doubted him. But even amidst the celebrations, Kael and Lysera remained focused. The galaxy was vast, full of challenges and responsibilities. Together, they began discussing plans for peace, alliances, and strategies to protect the lives of countless civilizations. Kael's perspective as a human brought fresh ideas, creativity, and adaptability that complemented Lysera's experience and wisdom. As they walked through the crystal terraces, Kael looked up at the stars. Princess, he said, we have achieved something incredible today. But this is only the beginning. There are threats, challenges, and unknown worlds ahead. We must be ready. Lysera nodded. Yes, Kael. And with you at my side, I am confident we can face anything. Your courage, intelligence, and heart inspire not only me but the people of this empire. Together, we can create a new era, one of cooperation, understanding, and growth. Kael smiled, feeling a deep sense of purpose. Humanity had long been underestimated across the galaxy, seen as weak or primitive. Yet here he was, standing beside a powerful princess, recognized as an equal, ready to shape the future of an entire empire. It was proof that even the youngest and smallest could rise to greatness through courage, heart, and determination. In the weeks that followed, Kael and Lysera worked tirelessly to strengthen ties between humans and the Aravani. Trade agreements were established, knowledge was exchanged, and joint defense strategies were developed. Humans, once considered outsiders, were now respected allies. Kael's presence became a symbol of hope and inspiration, not just for humans, but for every civilization that sought to rise above fear and prejudice. Through it all, Kael and Lysera's bond grew stronger. Their partnership was built on trust, mutual respect, and admiration. They learned from each other, Kael, adopting the precision and discipline of the Arivani. Lysera, embracing human creativity and adaptability. Together, they formed a leadership that was wise, compassionate, and courageous. One evening, as the twin moons reflected off the crystal towers, Kael and Lysera stood on a balcony overlooking the city. The galaxy stretched before them, vast and full of possibilities. "We have done something remarkable," Lysera said softly. "Not just in the trials, but in the alliance we are creating. You have proven that one human can make a difference." Kael looked at her, a sense of pride and humility mixing within him. "And you have shown me that true leadership requires wisdom, compassion, and vision. Together, we can achieve more than either of us could alone." Lysera smiled. "Then let us face the galaxy together, Kael. As partners, as equals, and as a symbol that courage, heart, and intelligence know no boundaries." Kael felt a surge of determination. The galaxy was vast, full of unknown worlds, challenges, and opportunities. But with Princess Lysera by his side, he knew they could face anything. Humanity had finally claimed its place among the stars, not through conquest, but through courage, ingenuity, and heart. As the city glimmered under the moons, Kael realized that this was more than personal achievement. It was a victory for all of humanity. The youngest human warrior had shown the galaxy what humans were capable of: bravery, wisdom, and the strength to rise above any challenge. And standing beside him, Princess Lysera represented a new era of cooperation, understanding, and hope. The stars above seemed to shine brighter that night, reflecting the promise of the future. A new era had begun, a time when humans and Arivani could stand together, united by courage, heart, and the belief that even the smallest and youngest among us could change the course of history. Kael and Lysera stood side by side, looking out over the galaxy, ready to face whatever challenges awaited. Their bond, forged through trials and trust, would guide not only their people, but the entire galaxy into a new age of unity, courage, and hope. And thus, humanity's place among the stars was no longer a question, it was a shining truth, proven by the bravery and heart of the youngest human warrior.